rights on the field. Thank you.
Don, you want me to go?
Go ahead, Dan.
All right,
Dan
so-
was going to talk a little bit about the issue with the
Okay, so
less
you
communication.
guys can correct me on the backstory, but Brocky gave us that site and the equipment in it, how many years ago?
Wow.
Okay, so last year, it's probably longer than that, went up there to take a look at it, and the equipment in there is 50 years old minimum, and usually with radios, 20 years is what you need to replace them after 20, so we're long gone. So what ended up happening was we started to get this really bad hum on the radio phones, because we actually have we had a line from TDS where you'd pick up the radio phone and you'd call out and would hit the repeater up on the hill. Well, it's so bad, you turn the volume all the way down, it's feedback through the whole system. So we had TDS test the line, and basically what they do is they go in and they take off our equipment and they take on either end and they put theirs across the circuit, it's clear as a bell. So it means we've got a problem with ours. Well, more than likely what ended up happening is during that really wet winter that we had, where we had all that snow, that shack needs to probably be redone again as it is anyway, but we got condensation in there and it wiped something out. So the thought about this has been, and we've started talks with the ambulance and the fire. As it sits right now, radio coverage in this area is so bad that EMS cannot land a helicopter on the football field. There's no radio coverage. So if we had an emergency of any type where we had to life flight somebody out, we got to get them up, and then they can get them out of here. So we'd have to go up one of the grades and get them to the top of the hill. We can't get anything in here. The other problem is that Latah County Sheriff has, in certain spots, especially if you go up to my house, from the top of the grade just past your turnoff, almost to Genesee, well, Linville, out past my place, there's no radio coverage and no cell coverage. So they won't pull anybody over up there. And we've got spots like that as well. The fire department can't get signal clear out almost to, what's the Clearwater line up there. So the thought was this, we need a new aerial, we need all brand new equipment on the inside of that. That is a ludicrous amount of money, because we're going to have a repeater a station here at the high school, handset to be able to call out, and one at the elementary. So what we thought was, why don't we kill two birds with one stone, and we have the site and we have the power. So why don't we redo that shack and then let all of the services like Latah County Sheriff, Nurse Perch County Sheriff, Idaho Fish and Game, everybody know we have the location. You can co-loc your equipment in there if you hang a new aerial and give us a frequency to run off of. So that's been kind of the thought, is when we've started the initial processes of talking with everybody about, okay, because if this was after 9/11, oh man, we had money coming out of our ears at that point. They could not give you money fast enough for emergency services, but we are where we're at now. So we're trying to find grants, and we're trying to find a way to get all this paid for that's not going to just absolutely decimate part of our budget. But what do we do in the interim is the problem. Well, we've been without comms on the buses now for at least 4 years that I know of. So that's where we're at. And so we're actually going to, Joe and I had talked about it, we're actually going to ramp up and start. Some people have been dragging their feet. The other issue that we have is you have to do a site survey from that location up there as well. And site surveys are expensive, and unless you have cash in hand, and no one wants to come up to actually do one. And Clark Communications in Lewiston was bought out by Day Wireless, which is a national chain. And I had the Day Wireless rep come out and we talked for a bit, and it was, if you guys have got money, we're interested in talking, but if you have to find grants to make this happen, we'll see. We've got other, and I get that, that's what it is. So we've had some other people. It's been kind of a dragged out process, but now with getting Joe in there, we're going to have to speed up our process and see if we can start getting some players in there, because I know a lot of people would be interested in having access to that site to give them coverage where they haven't had it in the past. So I don't know what we do in the interim, to be honest with you. We run on what we've got right now, which is pretty limited communications. With the phone down at the bus garage, at least we have the opportunity to call in-house and get down there and get, you know, a call in if the drivers are back in the garage and somebody's there to pick up. But I mean, cell coverage is a nightmare up here too. I mean, it was 3 years ago we finally got the cell tower in, and it's not even a major carrier. So there's no data. If you're not on inland cellular, you have no LTE. So it really hurts us in a lot of ways too, because it's not just that type of comms. It's like we've got kids who don't have internet access at home, and I can't get them anything to give them internet access at home. Because if we lived even Moscow or Lewiston, I could send them home with a wireless hotspot that they could use to get home with them, but we've got nothing like that to do here.
What would the cost be?
I'm going to say conservatively, kind of our phone project, when we initially looked at it, $100,000. Because that out there, we've got to swing a new aerial. We're going to have to completely redo that shed. We're going to have to get all of the wiring redone, so it's GFCI, and but that's stuff we could handle in-house, and then just the gear alone with the repeater, and then the radios, and the handsets are expensive, but if you're going to do it, you want to do it right, so we're not going to chintz out on the, you know, Motorola they are the standard for emergency communications and any of that other kind of stuff. If you talk to any law enforcement group or any fire, whoever it happens to be, everybody's on Motorola. It's just the way that it works. And they know that they make the best product and they charge premium for the best product. And then we also gonna have to roll that into the rollover schedule for us too, that hey, after 10 years, we really need to start looking at, you know, what of this stuff do we need to replace? And then after 20, we need to make sure that we have already got it rolled out. So we've done good for the 50 years that it's been up there, but.
Something else to think about, I talked to another district in Spokane, and they were taking one of their old buses and kind of turning it into a command center that would have some of that stuff. Not that that's something we need to do, but something to think about down the road. Sometimes those old buses just, the ones we can trade in are great, but some of them just sit. So that's something that they're going to do in case they do have those issues they have. Or even big football games or things where they kind of just need a spot where you kind of that go-to where it's got some of that information and communication. So it's something to consider if we start looking at that.
The other nice thing would be to have is, since we own a frequency, you can take that frequency and then you can put separate bands on the inside of it, right? So you have the overall freak, and then you have like what you would have for the buses to operate on. Then you can also have comms that would run, like if you had people out on the playground and somebody actually got hurt. Right now, our response is, will somebody run inside and get somebody? I mean, if you had, God forbid, if you had an incident of some sort, how do you clearly communicate that stuff that we have out there? We have no comms. We have no way of getting a hold of anybody about anything when it comes to that. We've got cell phones. We try and get a hold back and forth and everybody like that, but there's no instantaneous, hey, get on the radio and get a hold of this person and get this done. So that would be an additional benefit from replacing the equipment. So that's where we're at on that. So.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, back to leadership premium.
Thank you.
So I assume that's pretty much what it was last year. The dollar amount hasn't changed from last year.
We get $850 and we pay out
motion to approve the
I'll
leadership.
second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the leadership premium for 2019-2020 as printed. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Next item is the November supplemental levy date. Steve, would you like to talk to that?
Well, we just have a deadline coming up. If that was something that we wanted to consider, I didn't anticipate it, but I thought maybe we could throw it around and see what people thought.
I think we're better doing it this spring. I don't know.
Well, so I heard about the phone thing, no emergency services. I don't know, I feel that we're liable if somebody gets hurt and we don't have a way to communicate with EMS or Lifeline.
We're absolutely liable.
we would be liable, you know, so.
Well, when we do our levy, we could certainly do an additional one that would be for technology or for security or whatever that would classify under. But the question is it worth having it in November when voter turnout's a lot higher? Or do you take a risk of, you know, spring's easy because the people going to the polls most likely are supportive.
Yeah, well, I understand that. I just worry about the kids. That's what we're here for.
I understand. The buses can talk to each other right now, right?
Yeah, but it's not good. I mean, there are certain, I mean, you're never gonna get coverage in the canyon going up Southwick. They're just, it's an impossibility. You'd have to put a repeater at the top of the canyon, and we'd have to do basically a Yagi, a directional antenna down that to get coverage. And that's just, but right now, I mean, there's spots, I think we have coverage right up to about the turnaround spot there that we built out by Julietta, but realistically, we really stand to have coverage clear out to Arrow Bridge. There's Cedar Ridge, no. I mean, it's a mess. It really is, and it's just, we're kind of stuck at this point.
Well, I assume there isn't going to be a motion for the November date. I guess we'll move along. And then so we're into policies, and the first one is approved waiving first reading of policies and procedures. 3270, 3270P, 3270F, 3275A1, 3275A2, 3275F8, and 3275F.
These are new policies for the user agreements and things like that.
So I'll make a motion to approve waiving the first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve waiving the first reading for the policies listed. Amy, I'll list the policies. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Unanimously. Okay, then, the next one is adopt new policies. First one is 2160.
So these are the policies we just waived first reading for, along with the policies that we went through last month.
I guess my suggestion would be to approve them all at once unless there's something somebody wants to discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve the new policies listed.
I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Amend policy 5105, certified personnel.
This is an update to an existing policy, which has a process for cases when a teacher utilizing an alternate route certification fails to meet their annual progress goals or fails to complete the alternate route. ISBA sent this our way. It's a recommended policy, especially if you have teachers pursuing an alternate route. Which we do.
I move we amend policy 5105.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we amend policy 5105. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Amend policy 5220, assignments, reassignments, and transfer.
This is another one we reviewed last month. This is an update to note that when the board reassigns an administrative employee to a non-administrative position, the employee is entitled to a formal review. This is an optional policy, but a required practice.
An optional policy, but a required practice. Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the amendment on policy 5220.
Second.
Been moved and seconded we amend policy 5220. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Amend policy 9100, use and disposal of school.
This update is just removed language.
I move we amend policy 9100.
A second.
Been moved and seconded we amend policy 9100. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Select policy 9800, alternative 1.
So we reviewed two of them last month. Alternative 1 is the one I think we agreed on. There was this one, the language was simpler and gave us a little bit more flexibility. All those new schools that we're going to be opening.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment on policy 9800.
Second.
Moved and seconded we approve.
Oh, I guess a select alternative one, maybe that's a better, is that how you want it?
Select alternative policy. The policy 980, alternative 1. I guess we know what we're talking about. Moved and seconded we select policy 9800, alternative 1. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Select policy 9805, alternative 1. Memorials on school grounds.
I'll make a motion, this is the one we get the
This
second.
one allowed it.
I'll make a motion to choose alternative 2 for policy 9805.
There should be alternative 2 in the agenda. This is
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
okay. Select policy 9805, alternative 2. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Okay, policy, review of policy 7400.
Okay, so these are updates. What I did is I just included the updates as ISBA sent our way. So the first one, 7400, procurement management system. ISBA released many policies in the previous two updates related to uniform grant guidance under a federal award. This update is an attempt to address inquiries received about it and to outline the differences between procurement under a federal award and procurement under Idaho law. And this is a required policy. So I'm just reading to you what ISBA says about why they're sending us these updates. Okay, 7400 P4, the policy, let me see here.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna go to it and look here. Okay, 7400 P4. This is part of the update's efforts to organize the policies on purchasing and on federal grants more clearly. So what they did is that there was a 7400 Q4 before. They deleted the whole thing and just redid it, is what that is.
So that's a deletion. and then
Yeah.
we did-
So they're basically amending the entire thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see these next month. 7405P, the procedure. This is a procedure update to clarify the bid process around procuring public works construction. This is also a required policy. 7408, this is a new policy outlining the requirements when the school district enters into professional service contracts with certain public works professionals. This is also a required policy. 7409, this is a new policy as well. This one better outlines the acquisition process of real and personal property, including procurement of public works, goods, or services, and is also a required policy. So we'll see these next month for adoption. I'll send them out in the board packet too. And that is all the policies.
Board member input for future agenda items. Okay, seeing none, I guess it's a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Motion carried unanimously.